Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Enumeration Security YouTube video. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the info and web sections of the Vulnet CTF. So this weekend, I played in the CTF and I got 7th place in it. It was a very fun CTF, and I was asked by one of the creators to check it out, basically last minute, so I did. And we're just going to jump right into it. So the first one says warm up, and it says just join our Discord server and get the flag, and the Discord is right here. I'm not going to really show you Discord, so I ended up putting it inside of our terminal. When you look at it, if you are a CTF player, you should know what this is. And if you don't know what this is called brainfuck. And the way that you can go about decoding it is you could head on over to something like, decode, as well as putting in brainfuck decoder, and it's going to come here. And it's going to show you what you have to do. All you have to do is come here, paste it on in, click execute, and it'll generate the flag for us. So welcome, glad you are here. And that was a pretty easy first challenge. So the second challenge says one of our team members kept something public. Can you check it out on our Instagram page? And here we do have the Instagram page. So let's navigate over to here, and we can see that they do have a couple of posts. When you click on the CTF competition post, however, you can see that we do retrieve the flag right here. So HD, Rogue, and then Insta get the flag here. So we'll just copy this and paste it into the flag. The first one says, seems there's no vulnerabilities. Sometimes our activity also can be a vulnerability. Can you confirm? And we see the CTF app1 vulnet.com. See that we do have an application here, and something that we should do is probably get Burp Suite running. Okay, so now that we have Burp Suite running in the background, what we could do is we could just take a look at what's going on in this application. So we see that we have an about page, we see that we have a contact us form, and we also have a newsletter. Something that you could do inside of this application is you could try to just start putting in random values into each input field. So for instance here, we'll just do something like Evan Isaac, and then we'll do something like test@test.com, 1 2 3 1 2 3 4, and then we'll just put test and just click send. And we could see that it really did not do anything here. So that obviously did not work. However, on the application, there's also a newsletter. And inside this newsletter, if you put something random, it doesn't have to be real. So test@test.com, and you click on subscribe. When it loads, it says, thank you for subscribing inside of a alert box. When we head on over to our HTTP history and go to the post request within our Burp Suite, we could see that the flag is here in plain sight, active info, and vulnerability. So we'll copy this and we'll paste it into the first flag. So the second one is basically the exact same thing. We just need to find a different vulnerability on this website. Now, something that I will say is we're not going to actually do this specific challenge just because it's going to take a long time. You have to essentially directory brute force recursively through a bunch of different directories, which will then land you on the actual directory that has the flag. But because of how long it's going to take me to do, I'm not going to show you. I'm just going to show you the steps to get there and then how to retrieve the flag. Okay, so the first thing that you can do is you can come over to your terminal and we'll just type in Ferox Buster. If you don't have it installed, you could simply do a sudo apt install and then Ferox Buster. And this is a Rust application that'll do recursive brute forcing automatically. You don't have to do too much. It'll just do it for you, which is super nice. So if you do Ferox Buster, we can see that we do have a URL, so we have to supply that. So HTTPS, and then we'll go to CTF app1 vulnet.net, and we'll also supply a word list. So the word list is going to be, let's just assume user share word list, sec lists, let's do discovery, and then web contents, reft large directories, and then we could just set it to be lowercase. When we click on enter, it'll start running, and I guess I put it incorrectly. Let me just quickly check. I put vulnet.net, it should be vulnet.com, and what it's going to do is it's going to start brute forcing all the different kinds of files that are on the application itself. So as you can see, we're currently dealing with the root, and then we also have the image, CSS, JS, as well as the fonts, and it's going to be doing its own thing separately in a recursive form. But I'm not going to continue it because it may crash the server, as well as it just takes a very long time to do. But the way to go about doing this is you're going to want to go to your URL, and originally on the CTF, you can go to /secret and it would show you the flag inside the comments. That was actually a mistake and a little bit of an Easter egg. That's not how you were supposed to do it. You were supposed to recursively identify the specific folder or directory. And when you went to it, you would see that you do have a UUID here. With this said UUID, you can come back to your URL and you can paste it into the root, and then you can retrieve the second flag. So enumeration is key. So we'll paste it on in and submit it. So I just tried to record the GlassX challenge and realized that it's actually not working the way that it's intending to. So I just contacted the developer. Hopefully they can get back to me before this video ends and we can finish off these 2 challenges here. But we're going to skip on over to the SkyFrame challenge. And it says, if it loads, that it has to do with debugging. So SkyFrame runs an internal developer fetch endpoint used for debugging. It accesses a URL and returns what the server sees. We can see that we have the IP here, and looking at it, it doesn't seem like we have too much. So because there's not really a whole lot going on with this application, what we could do is we could check out the page source and see if there's anything there. And it looks like that there is not really too much going on. Maybe if we go to app.js, it'll be something else. And we can see here that we do have a developer hint. So hint for CTF players. This file isn't intentionally obvious. The navbar will reveal a hidden Who Am I menu option that leads to more clues. Also check the page source of the Who Am I page for the hidden endpoint. That means that we probably just have to go to the /Who Am I endpoint. So let's go to Who Am I. And we could see that the page has now changed just a little bit. And we need to inspect the page to see what to do next. And we can see here that we have to go to a hidden endpoint called super secret. So let's modify the URL to go to super secret, and we are at the internal fetching tool. Now, if you know anything about SSRFs, this is what it would normally look like. So you have a URL parameter and a debugger, quote unquote, where developers try to reach other servers, and that'll lead to a vulnerability called server-side request forgery. So some of the basic techniques that we can go about doing when it comes to SSRF is we could try to do something like file and then etc password. And what this is going to do is this is going to try to retrieve the backend file etc password. And this may take a second. It looks like it's taking a long time, but we see here that we do retrieve the etc password file. In addition to that, we can see up here that the URL is 8,000, and that's going to be a key indicator because sometimes you have internal services or processes that run on specific ports. But in this case, we're going to assume that it's 8,000. You can make a port brute forcer and go through everything, right? So if you go to, let's just say HTTP 127.0.0.1, which is just your local host, and let's just say 80, it's going to return back this HTTP connection pool error message, basically saying that the connection was refused and it did fail. And what you could do, you can create a Python script that basically checks for this string. And if it returns this specific string, that means that the port is not open. Whereas if we try to do something like HTTP, and then we do 127.0.0.1 and then 8,000, we could see that we actually retrieve the exact same page that we're currently on now, which if we go back here to the home page, this is exactly what we would see, right? So we know now that the internal service is going to be on port 8,000. And something that a lot of the CTFs do is we can just go over here and do the exact same thing, except this time we could just go to flag.txt and we can retrieve the flag. So SkyFrame server-side request. And we'll copy this on over and paste it into the challenge. So the next one is Rogue Portal, and it says the portal seems secure, but every fortress has its weaknesses. Find the red door and claim what's hidden behind it. So let's navigate over to this URL and let's take a look what we have. What you have to do is we could just try very basic things. So it just says type in a command. We could do something like ID, and we could see that spits it out. So the first thing that came to mind was we could try to just do something like reflector cross-site scripting. Maybe it has to do with something in the back end. But when we do that, it just reflects back at you and no XSS is prompted. When I tried to do this, I tried to think of different ways to go about exploiting things. So I tried to do like ls, and then I tried to do like a $sign with the brackets and then IFS and then TAC LA to see maybe if that'll help or do something different. And we see here that we do get an undefined error message. Now, when I saw this, I was like, that's really weird, and I wonder if I could play with it a little more. So I tried to go back in here, and I tried to put something like, who am I, within the parentheses. And when you do that, it just doesn't work. It actually breaks the application. So that wasn't the way in. And when I just left the brackets alone, we could see that nothing actually happens and it just gets the empty expression. And the most basic thing when it comes to eval injection in Python is just going to the globals function, executing it. And here we can see that we do retrieve the flag, which is remote execution dominated. So we'll head on over to the challenge and we'll paste in the flag and submit it. So the final two challenges are going to be on the same URL, and it is GlassX. So we see here that we have an XSS arena, and you can see that I put in my dummy information just to make sure that the exploit was still working, because this challenge specifically was not working before, but now it is. So I wanted to make sure that it was still working as expected. So we have a login as well as a register page. So we're just going to head on over to the register page and quickly make an account. So we'll just do, let's say, MRE. So now that we're signed in as MRE, we could see that it says XSS Arena, and we most likely need to have an XSS vulnerability in place. So we'll click on the post button and we'll see if we can get XSS on this specific application. And we see here that we do have 4 input fields. So what we can do is we can just try some basic vulnerabilities or basic XSS payloads, which is going to be script alert 1, and we'll just put that down the board. In addition to that, we're just going to modify each one to say 2, 3, and 4. And this is going to tell us which specific form is the vulnerable form that we need to work with. In our case, we could see that it's the form number 4. So with this information, we can go back to the post button and we can head on over to our terminal and we can see our XSS payload that we're going to work with. Now, it looks a little bit complex, but I promise you it's super basic and easy to understand. We're simply fetching the flag component, which we can find within the robots.txt. So when you head on over to the robots.txt, that is your first flag, as well as the /flag disallow. So we know for a fact that we need to go to this specific endpoint, the /flag, and we will retrieve the response text. And what we're going to do is we're simply going to source it to the image component into this URL here, which is our controlled URL. In this case, we're going to be using the interact sh, but you can also use request bins from Pipedream. So this doesn't really matter. We'll just modify this a little bit. And then here, we're just going to paste in this payload. And again, instead of this URL, what we're going to do is we're going to set up interact sh by simply doing the /interact sh client HTTP only, and then TAC-v for verbose. It'll just show us the HTTP interactions that are going on. So we'll copy this URL that we retrieve from it and we'll paste it in to the payload and we'll click on submit. And if you don't have interact sh installed, you can head on over to GitHub and just type in interact sh GitHub, and it's from Project Discovery. Copy it on over, do a wget on it, unzip it, and you will have access to this tool. This is great for out-of-band attacks such as this one, or blind attacks such as this one. And it looks like I'm still getting a 502 bad gateway. So let me talk to the developer and we'll be right back. And we could see that it did end up going through. And obviously we don't see it because it is a script tag, so we're not going to be able to see really anything. But if we go down here, we could see that we do have the interact sh script tags over here, and it is going to be executed as soon as the administrator does gain access to it. So we're just going to have to wait for the admin, which is just a cron job on the back end, to do its thing, and I'll cut back when we get a connection. So after a few seconds, we could see that we do retrieve the flag here. So we'll copy this over and we'll paste it into flag. So we'll go to the glass number 2. Let's try to submit it again. That's the end of the web challenges. But other than that, if you did enjoy this video, please let me know in the comment section down below, and please like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.